What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We've got a lot of information to update you on Taylor Tibbs. So we had independently found her. We looked her up on True People Search off of a phone number. And we put that phone number that somehow came up on her name on True People Search. Well, one of the ladies put that phone number into Cash App and it pulled up. And this is where it gets really scary. I'm just thinking about this almost has me in tears because there's a connection with all these women and why they're missing. And in Cash App, the name that came up on this number that also pulled up on True People Search that brought up several people's names, it also brought up Taylor Tibbs' name. But when it was put into Cash App, it brought up Thomas Bowers. And then under Thomas Bowers, it said Sophie Bauer. And that got me looking up Facebook profiles, and I found the name Thomas Bowers, a fake internet or Facebook profile created literally 9 minutes before I found it last Monday night. And not only was there Thomas Bowers, there was William Bowers. Well, we did some more work and we found out that Thomas Bowers, his middle name is William. And now independently talking to one of the other ladies who has profiled cases for decades even, she has found out there was a woman by the name of Bonnie who ran a website called Starlight Enterprises. And that website is now down. This has been going on for a long time. But Bonnie, before she died, and she just died from old age, she profiled and swore up and down there was a serial killer going around Parkersburg and the surrounding areas who was killing young women by the name of Wild Bill. And I got to thinking, and I said, what was his name, Wild Bill? And she goes, William Bowerbach. And I said, doesn't William Bowerbach sound awfully similar to William Bowers, which was one of the profiles created very recently? And I got to looking up fan pages on, if you go to Facebook search and you look up pages under the name Thomas Bowers or William Bowers, you're going to find hundreds of these random, weird, whack job, fake pictures of people, and it's a fan page, and it has exactly 2 pictures for each one of these fan pages, and it's listed as a business from this guy who's apparently going by Thomas Bowers or William Bowers, who on one of his Facebook profiles calls himself a digital content creator. Well, many of these accounts feature pictures of women. They appear to be Chinese women, and I'm wondering if it's not human trafficking going out of like a Chinese restaurant around here or something. But all the images are blurred out. And at first I thought, well, is this Taylor Tibbs? And maybe it was. Maybe it was. One of them didn't look Chinese. It looked like a woman who looked like Taylor Tibbs. And I think to this day I might still be right on that. But going back to what happened with Taylor, so independently we found her at the address of 701 Palmer Drive. And her mother has gone there repeatedly. How many times exactly, I don't know. But the door was never answered for her. But the windows are boarded up with plywood. Well, that tells you one thing. People were hiding something. And I don't know if it was just Taylor at this residence, if she was the only one. But she's been on heroin for a number of years, at least 7 so far as I know. And the 2 guys that live there are by the name of Earl Grey Jr. and Roberto. And I'll try to get you pictures of them, but they're not good people. They work at the rehab centers, and I don't know if they both work at Recovery Point on Emerson or if they work at different ones, but Earl Grey Jr. has a connection to Gretchen Fleming. And reportedly, that is one of the older men that Gretchen went home with on one of the nights since she has come back from North Carolina. So we don't know anything yet, but what we do know is that 2 days after we identified Taylor Tibbs as living at 701 Palmer Drive, she comes up dead, overdosed. And this is where the corruption comes into play. So there's a drug dealer by the name of Amber, I think Clark, maybe Amber Pettry-Clark. I don't know if I'm getting that completely right, but I think that's who it is. And we have found out that she dealt Taylor Tibbs heroin. And we are under the premise that that heroin was hot-shotted. And here's the thing, is Taylor had something on Amber that was very serious. And we think that maybe Amber hot-shotted that heroin, and now she's dead 2 days later. Because, Taylor answered the door for Amber, but she would never answer for her own mother or anybody else that happened to go there at 701 Palmer Drive. So we got confirmation that she was living there 2 days before she had passed, and we got a picture of her. That's the one we got on the thumbnail of this video right now, and she didn't look good. Her skin was gray. We think that her veins were like collapsed. When an addict gets to that point, it's not good. You don't have a lot of time left to live. We were kind of theorizing that maybe she only had a week to live. We were trying to get her out of there. But, you know, we just don't understand. Like, somehow this drug dealer found her way to this residence and before we could even get there. And I don't understand it, like how this all happened, but that's what we're thinking happened. We think that maybe Amber willingly hot-shotted the heroin that she sold her and that she's responsible for the death of Taylor Tibbs. We're now coming into information that Amber Clark actually is responsible, we believe, allegedly, for the death of Caitlin Ferree. Now, Caitlin Ferree, for you guys who have been following all these cases, I think she was 15 years old and she was on drugs, and I think it was heroin. She was found dead at the house of Bryson England. But Bryson England was in Florida. He wasn't home. And we believe that he was set up and framed by the Parkersburg police on this, and he did time for this crime that I don't believe he even committed. And it turns out Amber Clark, if I'm getting the name correct, is responsible for, I think, allegedly, for the death of Caitlin Ferree. And you've got Parkersburg police. So Taylor, from our understanding, when it hit Parkersburg Scanner Talk, it was known at 7 in the morning that she had overdosed. Somebody at that address must have called it in. And she overdosed outside with her back up against a log and her head leaning back. And it was known at 7 in the morning. Well, nobody had called it a next of kin or anybody in the family. And Parkersburg police is legally required to call somebody in the family saying that Taylor Tibbs is overdosed. And what came across on the Scanner Talk page is that paramedics aren't even sure whether or not to perform CPR. So you've got this confusion about whether they're even going to perform CPR or not. That tells me she's already dead by the time the paramedics show up. But by the time Taylor's mother is notified, it's 7 o'clock. And the hospital notifies her that Taylor, her daughter, is on life support. And why is the hospital letting her know? Why is the police not making that phone call? They're legally required to do this. This is more corruption that's being swept under the rug, and people don't want it out, but it needs to be put out. And there's something else I got to tell you guys about, is that the Wood County Sheriff's Department was looking for Taylor previously and showed up at her mother's house on a warrant for her arrest that she was already arrested for. So let me back up a little bit and tell you what was going on. So this is where the confusion comes in. Taylor was reported missing, I think back in September of 22, before Gretchen went missing in December, okay? And there was a missing persons alert put out about her in December. When it comes to addicts, the police don't care about you. You have to wait 2 months before a missing persons alert can be put out. It's not like it is everywhere else in the world. Parkersburg runs things differently. So when that period of time came and December hit, there was a missing persons alert put out for Taylor Tibbs. Well, within 24 hours on the next day, she shows up at Ghetto Gomart on 16th Street in north end of Parkersburg, unresponsive, on heroin, next to the dumpster. She had a capious warrant out for her arrest, which is not a warrant you would run from. It just means that you missed court. So she was arrested that day when she was discovered at Ghetto Gomart on 16th Street. She was arrested. 8 hours later, before the family could even bond her out, basically somebody else had bonded her out, and we're presuming that it was allegedly Earl Grey Jr. or this guy by Roberto, who goes by Birdo. These men who run the recovery centers, and I think it's Recovery Point on Emerson. I think they bonded her out. They hold her up in this house at 701 Palmer Drive with the ply boards over the windows, and she's been there ever since. And nobody knew about it until just recently, until we started doing some investigative work, and we found out that this is an address that pulled up all because we found the number off True People Search and put it on a Cash App, and it pulled up the name Thomas Bowers. So there's a lot going on here, and I think there is a big connection, and you really need to tune in to our upcoming videos that I'm releasing today, because this all harkens back to a serial killer by the name of Wild Bill. And there was a woman by the name of Bonnie who ran Starlight Enterprises. If I haven't already told you, this is back about a decade ago, and she's died from old age, but this Bonnie was adamant that there was a serial rapist and murderer by the name of Wild Bill who was killing young women, raping them and killing them. And I think with the Facebook profiles I found out, I think this is all connected. I think this guy is somehow responsible for this, but you've got a lot of people involved. You've got Earl Grey Jr., you've got Roberto, who lives there, and it's all fishy. None of it makes any sense to me, but other than the fact that they all have a hand of guilt in this somehow, and you've got the drug dealer Amber Clark in this, if I'm saying her name correctly. So we're trying to help women who are coming up missing and stuff, and we're trying to bring justice, and there's only one way to do it. It's not going to be from the police. Don't buy what they're putting out, because they're framing people, and it's really bad. So stay tuned. We've got more videos coming up for you guys. We're going to tie all this together, but we need the community's help. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. I'm risking a lot by putting this information out there, but somebody has got to do it. Thank you so much for your time, and help us to bring justice to these missing women.